community to have this kind of attendance. So once again, welcome everyone. Just before I get the meeting started, I'd like to offer my congratulations to the most recent mayor in the area, Your Worship, Mayor Comrie from Whitestone. Congratulations. Like my father told me when I first got elected, now you went and did it. All right, first order of the agenda is to approve the minutes from our previous meeting of October the 9th. Can I have a mover and a seconder to put the minutes on the table? Moved by Councillor Hascom, seconded by Mayor McDermott. Any discussion or comments on the minutes? Call the question. All those in favor? It's carried. Deputations. We have one scheduled for tonight. So Sky Panapak, Georgian Bay Native Nonprofit Homes Incorporated, Darren OBrien, Chair of the Prairie Sound Affordable Housing Development Corporation, Howard Wesley, Georgian Bay Native Profit Homes Incorporated, Prairie Sound Affordable Housing Development Corporation. All three gentlemen speaking, or one for all, or? Okay, welcome. Have to hit the button. There you go.
Good evening. I'm Sky Panapak. I want to thank everyone for having us here, and we're very excited to present our executive summary and give you some points from our presentation. I'd like to open up by just letting everyone know I left the Arctic Circle yesterday at about 10:30 in the morning and rolled into town at about 11:30. So if I look a little bit tired, I apologize.
That's a long walk.
Yeah. It's a long day. We're here to talk about the opportunities that Georgian Bay Native Nonprofit brings along with the investment in Canada Infrastructure Program. We would love to be a funder in this project along with all the municipalities. We have access up to 93.33% in funding for the project for the Wellness Center. There's $30 million available for these kinds of projects geared towards having an Indigenous partner in the project. We have a great team here. We have experience as project managers. We have an amazing group of volunteer board members from the community, and we want to bring, as part of this project, a 50-unit complex for elders and seniors. Georgian Bay Native Nonprofit will be looking to build 10 new units, the very first elders units in the town of Parry Sound that are off reserve. So they'll be the only elders dedicated units off reserve, which would keep elders in our community, especially with the needs of anyone that is aging. You want to keep them in place. You want to keep them near services, keep them near the hospital, keep them near their doctors. If we could do this alongside a wellness center, it would also include a healthy lifestyle. So there would be the opportunity to remain healthy, get exercise, socialize. It opens up a giant volunteer window, because if you have 50 households, that at least, let's say they only have one person in each house. Many will have two. You have all those people with time in their hands. They have the opportunity to volunteer at a center to just help make sure programs roll. So that's where we're coming at it from. We would love to be a part of this. We know we can bring enough to the table to make this successful.
Yeah, I'm Darren OBrien. I'm the chair of the Parry Sound Affordable Housing Development Corporation. I just want to thank the committee, our First Nations partners and the municipalities for meeting and discussing and bringing to the table a much-needed infrastructure that we're now calling a wellness center. Many of you know the Parry Sound Affordable Housing spent many years redeveloping a public school here in Parry Sound. It was formerly called William Beatty Public School. It is now, we call it the Parry Sound Community Hub. It's made up of 45 residential units and a partnership with 5 partners that make up the community hub, which includes early years, hands. We also have, help me out here, One Kids Place, and we also have the Friendship Center, and we also have the Meeting House. Thank you. That's where I was. I want to thank Rolly and Brenda, she's here tonight, Sky and Howard for preparing the executive summary for our proposal. Obviously, our board obviously is focused on creating housing, and in this particular case, it would be housing, as Sky said, for our seniors and our elders of the community. We think this would make a wonderful partnership to be able to have a facility beside a wellness center to benefit those who we are providing housing for. When I got wind of the ICIP funding, the Investment in Canada Infrastructure Program, I asked our staff if we were eligible, and from that conversation to this moment here, we realized that not only are we eligible, but we stand a really good chance because of the fact that our community does need housing, does need senior-focused housing, does need Indigenous housing, and also we also need very deeply a wellness center. So I think the three go hand in hand, not only in just the conversation we're having now, but when we actually apply for an ICIP funding, I do believe with us as a part of that, our chances of getting the funding is much higher. One of the locations, and I'm not totally privy to all the information about locations, but one of the locations that was on the table, or still may is located on Parry Sound Drive. It's most of you know, it's a 50-acre parcel of land. It would require some investment as far as infrastructure, services, and etc. But we feel, from the Parry Sound affordable housing point of view, that it is an excellent location. Some of the reasons why are because it's close to an elementary school, we have access from the highway, we have lots of area there to grow and develop. It's a beautiful, peaceful setting. So beyond the wellness center, the dynamic of the area around the wellness center and the housing would be to a benefit for those who use it. Also, the other thing too is we feel that the sharing of the carrying costs, the sharing of the maintaining of the building, the property, the removal of snow, we would as a partner benefit, and you would benefit from us as well, similar to what we've done already at the Parry Sound Hub, as we partnered with the Georgian Bay Nonprofit Housing. We share our staff there, we share resources, we bought a truck together, we look after each other, and the two of us collectively working on the Parry Sound Hub has kept our costs well down and well documented to be a benefit financially for the people who use the hub. Let's go.
So we come here tonight to ask that you, the committee, approve the recommendation to the councils to have both Georgian Bay Native Nonprofit Homes, Parry Sound and the Parry Sound Affordable Housing Development Corporation added to the application for funding under the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program. And 2, we are looking to the committee to approve recommendation to their councils to have land provided to both Georgian Bay Native Nonprofit Homes and Parry Sound Affordable Housing Development Corporation to build elders and senior housing complexes along with the Wellness Center.
And That sort of summarizes our deputation, but if you have any questions, we're willing to answer them, whether that's now or in the future. So thank you again for having us here, and thank you for allowing us to have a deputation.
All right, thank you for coming. So I'll open it up to the committee. Any questions for this delegation? Councillor Gilbert?
There we go. We talked before about the possibility of it being attached. Does it still have to be attached, or is it, I see the one building you've got here is a brick building that looks like it's freestanding.
Yeah, I'm just gonna let my
Yeah,
operations manager handle it.
thanks. Yeah, no, we offered a couple solutions, and that's why we shared them out. We're not exactly sure what will be the perfect fit right now, the building structure. We had questions around having it attached right to the center, and perhaps a different sort of, so anyway, we're not sure exactly what the building will look like at this moment, but it typically would be a 50-unit building, one complex. And if it could be attached, that would just benefit the seniors and elders in the building, really.
Any other questions? Or, oh, Councillor Gilbert again.
And then you've given a scenario of numbers here. If the numbers are changed, that's just a percentage as far as numbers, like if it's 6 million instead of this 5 million.
Yeah, so when it comes to the funding of our actual build, it won't be part of this ICIP application, right? So the more affordable that we can build the building, the more affordable places we can create. So that's really where those numbers come in. So people say, I'd like all of these different options added to the table. We can go from a 25% affordable units within a building to perhaps up to 50% of affordable units. So it does depend on how we build.
Questions or comments from the committee? Mayor McDermott?
Just a question. You mentioned the Perry Sound Drive site. Are you open to other sites?
Yeah, actually, absolutely. Obviously, we're open to other sites. I think the key thing here is to, first of all, everybody in the room will agree that the Wellness Center is the focus of this evening's meeting and moving forward as quickly as we can, but making prudent decisions. The reason that we discussed the Perry Sound property is because we firmly believe that the ICIP application should, I'm not suggesting it can't, have an address placed in there. I think that would benefit because after all, it's not, we're not just getting an application approved. We're actually competing, if I understand, with many other applications. So we feel that if we have that address in there, it will help us collectively for the funding. But also, we would also understand that if another location was picked after the fact, I think we would still have a strong case that if we did win the funding and the other site was more appropriate, I can't foresee it being an issue transferring it from that site to that site with having the same funding in place.
Thank you. Councillor Haskam?
Yes, I'm curious with the 50-unit seniors building, you say one structure. Do you know your footprint, the square feet of your footprint yet? Or?
Not exactly. We intend to build 500 square foot units within the building. That's our expectation. But our funding does allow to put up to 20% of the building to accommodate a commercial piece. So that could be introduced. There are a lot of variables that we could add, whether that's added into the wellness center, whether it's just a standalone within our building or it's separate building within the complex. But our funding does allow through the Canada Housing and Mortgage National Housing Funding to do a variety of different things. So we can dive into those options as we go along, and what suits best for the whole complex, I think, is the intention of our board. So I hope that answers that.
Councillor Gilbert?
Just to add to Morley's, so how many acres, I guess, do you need in order to have a parking lot and a building of either scenario here?
That's a very good question. We have it outlined around 3 acres. That's probably the most appropriate, given the amount of parking that was asked in our last complex. That's depending on whether or not we can share a parking lot, depending on how that works out. We could reduce that acreage, but as it stands right now, 3 acres is about what is required.
Okay, looks like that's it. So, gentlemen, thank you very much for your
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, there's no other deputations scheduled for tonight. I guess I'll just, to the audience, I'm going to run this kind of formally like a council meeting, so this is the only opportunity anyone in the audience will have to make a deputation tonight to this group. So if someone else has something they'd like to comment on, but I would say if your comment is you're in support of the pool, we get that. That's why we're here having this meeting, so we don't, as much as we like to hear that from you on a regular basis, this is not the place to hear it. But if someone else has a deputation regarding the recreation and pool complex that you'd like this committee to hear, then this would be your opportunity right now. Okay, thank you. Item 3 is the steering committee update. Mr. Harris?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The steering committee's asked me to provide an update since we met with this committee, I think the last time was October 9th. So for the benefit of the committee and the public, the steering committee's asked me to give this update. We've continued to meet weekly. I think we've made a lot of progress. As was mentioned, there's a grant application with a deadline of November 12th. We've met weekly with the CAOs and the consultants, and they're here this evening as well to speak to the committee and answer any questions you may have. As part of the due diligence, the YMCA has been closely involved and consulted along the way, so they're an important partner in this exercise. The due diligence, we're well into that. About a third of the due diligence relates to site selection, and there's some discussions that are going to take place in close this evening. 2/3 of the due diligence relates to refining what will be included in the facility, a concept plan, cost estimates, revenues, and a business plan, and consultation with the Citizen Advisory Committee, and we're making appointments to that this evening. So our primary focus as the CAO, the steering committee group, has been the grant application. That's right now the immediate need. We're working on a common resolution that we think we'd like each municipality to approve so that when the application goes in, they can see consistent, common support. There's an item later on the agenda to talk about the project name. One of the things that's in the grant application is they're not funding healthcare. And as much as we have an idea what's going to be in this facility, having a name on the application that says Wellness Center and Pool might cause some bureaucrat at the province or the federal government to think twice about the application. So we want to talk about that. That's on the agenda. The other thing is for the purposes of the application, we're going to later on in the agenda go through the amenities. We need to have some costs and a footprint to include in the application, and given the time constraints, we thought this evening would be a good time to present that to you, and the consultants will be speaking to that later on in the agenda. So with us this evening, we have the managing principal of CS&P Architects, Sam Spagnolo, and the executive, who's the executive vice president of Tatham Engineering, Bill Van Ryan, and they're here this evening. They're going to be participating in the items later on in the agenda. I don't know if there's any questions from the committee.
Okay, thank you. Committee members, any questions for the steering committee? Just for the information of the general public, the steering committee was made up of the CAOs from each one of the 7 participating municipalities. And they've had a long 6 months of meeting after meeting after meeting, working away at this to get us to this stage. They had no decision-making powers. That all had to come back to the councils at the end of the day, but they were doing all the legwork and the groundwork to get us to where we are now. So I thanked them last time. Once again, I'll thank your committee again tonight for all the hard work and the hours that you've put into this to get us to this stage. Okay, still not seeing any questions for the steering committee. Right, so we move on to item 4, which is the project name. Having these signed ahead of time might not help me. Is that moved by Councillor McGarvey?
Yes.
Seconded by Councillor Zanussi?
So, that was
Quite the signatures. That the name West Prairie Sound Area Recreation Complex be adopted for purposes of the ISIP grant application. Discussion. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? It's carried. Item 5, key features and amenities to be included in the project. Information from CS&P Architects. I understood from the steering committee there's CC Tatum as well. Gentlemen, if you could introduce yourselves, and welcome.
Hi, my name is Sam Spagnolo from CS&P Architects.
And I'm Bill Van Ryn from Tatham Engineering. Thank you.
Welcome. Floor is yours.
You have one of the most technologically illiterate fellows with you tonight. So this goes, it's all on me if it goes wrong.
So,
Rebecca set us up well, so thank you.
what we're going to present today is our findings we've worked a lot with the YMCA, and we looked at other facilities of same size, same scope, and this is a base program that we're mentioning tonight. It's nothing set in stone because we still need to work with your committee and the people that are going to use this. So this is a educated program that we've had many discussions with the CEOs and the committee and Rob Armstrong from the YMCA, and programs that have worked in the past and areas. So if you go to the next slide.
I'm going to try to build this up.
I think it was just this. Yeah. So what we looked at was a 4-lane pool, a therapeutic pool, deck area, pool storage, all the aquatics that would be needed for this type of facility. A single wood-sprung gym, gym storage, fitness area, aerobic studio, testing rooms for athletics. We talked about a walking track around the fitness area, a number of multi-purpose rooms. Right now, we're talking that there are 2 to 3 multi-purpose rooms. We've also had discussions about child minding, daycare. These are still things that we're discussing and seeing how we can work into the program. With daycare, you have food preparation, so there'd be some kind of kitchen as a servery type of kitchen. So these are things that we're still working. We want to work with the community to see how they feel about it and what needs to be added. But we needed to get to a building area that we could submit a cost and a simple program that we can put into the application. So if you go to the next image, gotta make it smaller. This is a basic layout diagram that shows the single gym, the studio, the fitness area with the walking track around it. They would share the change rooms between the gym and the fitness areas and the pool aquatic. You see a 4-lap pool, a therapy pool, and then that would be under a controlled access run by the Y if they would be the operator, and then the multi-purpose rooms outside that would be open to the public that would book into. So this is similar to a facility that we did in Gravenhurst as well. So.
Thank you.
Come on.
Any other questions from the committee? Comments? Councillor Gilbert?
So I'm not sure if this is for the steering committee or for you guys. the size of a single gym is that the size like that we have the YMCA now, or
It's actually larger than the one that's at the Y now.
so is it the size of like I
It's
would call it the double gym at the high school so they can play
It's not a
basketball?
double gym, but you could have a competitive game in there. So if you had a competitive basketball game, it would be that size, so
Sorry, like tournament size? Is that's sorry,
tournament
like,
size, yeah.
Any other questions? I have a question. I'm not sure if I don't think I have to pass the chair over because I don't think it's going to be a contentious question where I've got to be overruled on this. But I know in our previous meetings, some people brought to the table the idea of having competitive lanes and a competitive pool. This doesn't seem to have that. But I also know from that previous meeting, the YMCA said that that's, if you want to keep this community minded, because the competitions are very cost prohibitive when you start running and doing that. So I know that'll be some questions. We have some of our ratepayers and that too, who have been looking for that, who travel different areas just for that competition. So did you give some thought to that in this process?
We have done many competitive pools. We did actually the Bracebridge competitive pool at the Sportsplex there in Bracebridge. They're an operation issue that because you have to have a big enough size that you can bring tournaments in, and you need a 25-meter pool, and it's a operational thing. And from our discussions with the Y, it's a maintenance issue that you'd have to have enough memberships that would have to be involved and buy in to run a competitive pool. We did the Wayne Gretzky Sportsplex in Brantford as well, which has a 65-meter pool and a 25-meter pool. So the community has to be there to support that type of pool because of the operation costs.
And I know right from when we started this 10 years ago, one of the go-arounds I can still remember, I think is it Peter Kuhn was from the YMCA then, and he basically said you need 30,000 people within 30 minutes. And we're still not there.
Yeah, and
We're about halfway there.
You need an aquatic club that is bringing in the tournaments so that that's how Brantford supports their pools, because it's one of the largest competitive pools in Southern Ontario.
Okay. Mayor McGarvey? Microphone. It's your house, you should know that.
Yeah, well, I leave mine on all the time. Can you teach competitive swimming in a 25-meter pool?
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
you can teach competitive as long as it's 25 meters.
Okay.
Then you can teach it.
Because I think that's what some
Yeah.
of the things that the people are looking for, so that they can actually get the training
Correct.
in the community. I
Yeah.
mean, if they go somewhere else, then
Yeah.
it's a a competition, that sort of thing. But they've got the facility
Yeah.
here, and we can have the teachers in
Correct.
to teach that.
Bracebridge is an 8-lane, 25-meter pool, and that's a competitive pool. So as long as it's 25 meters, you can train. You need one lane.
It's 25 meters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. That answers
Thank
my
you.
question.
Mayor McDermott?
I just want to be clear that this is a conceptual drawing
Correct.
going forward for the grant application, that we still need public input, the committee, so this is not set in stone?
this
Okay.
is our-
This is just a dartboard?
It's a placeholder.
Okay,
right?
perfect,
So
thank you.
this committee, our objective is to meet with this committee and find out what the community needs and what it needs to get the community center. But because of the timeline for the grant application, we need to put something down so we can get a costing and something that looks like it fits in.
work.
Yeah,
Okay, because we
It's an
still need to
educated
get the
guess.
citizens committee up and
Correct.
running, and they need to consult with the broader public.
Correct.
So as long as this isn't set in stone, it's
Yeah.
fine. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? No? Councilor Gilbert?
Sorry, I know, like Ann said, we're at the conceptual stage. I was in BC and they had a slide, I guess you would call it, that was like a water slide instead of just being like a 12-foot slide where you'd climb up. And the stairs was actually at the outside of the building, so the whole the slide actually went outside, came back in, so it didn't use any of the footprint sort of thing, and then had a wall, I guess, about where this desk is, and you slide into it. Is that sort of the concept we have, or is it just, you know, a plastic slide?
Well, we don't have a slide in this concept, but we've done one at again, the Wayne Gretzky Sportsplex. There's a slide portion that goes outside the building and then comes in. I do warn you that it's a very expensive item because you have to keep it heated all the time because you have this cold funnel that's coming from outside into the pool area. So it's a very expensive item for the amount of time it's used. If it is a leisure type of pool with a zero beach entry into, and it's designed for kids to come and like a water park, and that's what the community is asking for, then we would look at something that you have to realize where you are and how that fits into the building, so.
Can I read? Yeah. So sorry, I wasn't thinking, that one went outside and I thought that was a bad idea as well, of heating it or whatever. But I'm more thinking about, because, I mean, we're gonna run that around the table, I guess, but because the community is seniors and younger people and, you know, high school, whatever, are all gonna be using it. So we wanna make it so that it's therapeutic but fun. And that idea of, sort of a water slide inside, but that doesn't use up part of the footprint, you know, that goes up the wall this way around the building and comes in another side. I just want to, it does say slide and ramp on there, so I just trying to see what you've got for concept, but thank you.
Right, thank you. Mayor McGarvey?
I thought that we should have some kiddies area in there. There, you know, a small, like a wading pool, that sort of thing, and a few splash things, that sort of thing that the kids can use. I think it's important because you can have the opportunity for birthday parties, that sort of thing, to bring more people in. With the possibility, I would think it outside in the summertime, a splash area as well. I think that would cover both. But if you're utilizing the water and transferring it around through the facility, do it once, do it right.
Again, we're gonna look to this committee and our time with you guys to get the right pieces for the project. But for funding right now, we needed something to go in with and make our case for the funding.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions, comments? No. Okay. And it's early days for this committee, very early days for this committee, and I know it's been months with the steering committee working on this and years before that with trying to get to the stage that we're at now. But that ISIP grant did come along, and it's not something when someone offers some money around for something that seems tailor-made for this kind of project, we just can't ignore that either. So that's why, so I would like to thank you and your group too, because I know you kind of hit the ground running and had to run even faster because this grant came up and got going. So we certainly appreciate that you're trying to, you're not there yet, and our expectation shouldn't be too high, and before we get our input from our citizens committee and from our councils and
And we've
that
done
as
a
well.
lot of research with the former committees and their online stuff. So we brought all that in with our discussions with the CEOs. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Councilor Gilbert.
And was there any discussion about a second floor? Like I know at a lot of these places, Gravenhurst, Wasaga Beach sort of thing, the fitness area is up above, looking over the pool. Is that?
Again, we just put an area, we had to get an area. We could look at that, but once you bring a second floor, you have to have an elevator and you have to have all these additional fire exits. So right now, what we're looking for when we're evaluating the sites and stuff is the largest footprint. We can always reduce it, right, by adding the second floor.
Right. Okay, thanks.
Right. Okay. Any more questions for these gentlemen? No. Right. Thank you very much. You survived the technology challenge. All right. Item 6, other business. We are going to go into kind of a lengthy closed session tonight because we got some people, some names have been put forward for the Citizens Committee, so obviously that's not something we can talk about in the public arena, and we shouldn't, in all fairness to those people and to the members of the committee as well. and some other items. So if there is any other business before we go into closed session, seeing none. Moved by Ann McDermott, seconded by Jamie McGarvey. That pursuant to Section 239, Paragraph 2 and 3 of the Municipal Act, SO 2001, Chapter 25, is amended, the Wellness Center Pool Committee moves to a meeting closed to the public in order to address matters pertaining to B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees, which are the applications to the Citizens Advisory Committee, an expression of interest for the chair of the of the Wellness Center and Pool Committee, which is important to me because I'm just in an interim position here, so that's an important one. And C, a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land for municipal or local board purpose and site selection review. All those in favor? It's carried.